Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boutique. I'm Christy Wright. I'm so excited because today I get to share another awesome conversation with you that I had with one of my very good friends, Kelsey Humphreys. Kelsey is a speaker, a musician, a comedian. She is the queen of trying new things, and she's the host of The Kelsey Show. She's also hilarious, and I know you will love her. Check out our conversation. Kelsey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Kelsey, I am such a fan of yours and have been for such a long time. I feel like you and I are just kindred spirits in this space of women and fun and color and being creative and all the things. And I just love what you do. But for any of our viewers and listeners that might not be familiar with you, let's just start by you telling everyone a little bit about yourself and your family and your business and all the fun things you're working on.
Sure. Well, I am a motivational comedian, which is a term I made up.
I love it. Great start.
And for the record, I was your fan first. I had you on my show. You guys can go watch. She was on The Kelsey Show. I think it was, you were on your book tour. So How many years ago was that? 2 or 3 years ago. So I have a talk show. That's my main shtick, is The Kelsey Show, where I interview massively successful celebrities and entrepreneurs and moguls. And then I break down success for the rest of us. I also do keynote speaking and emceeing. I'm so pumped to MC Business Boutique this year.
Yes, I'm so excited.
I cannot wait. And so basically all of my content, I'm here to get you laughing and keep you moving towards your goals. So that when I started, I actually, worked my way up in an advertising career, had a desk job, the whole thing, worked my way up. And then I was working in the food industry. We had some clients, and a food company, a froyo company, came to me actually through a friend of a friend on Facebook, believe it or not, and said, "We want you to be our agency of record." So before I turned 30, I left my job, got an intern in an office, and I was doing all the marketing and branding for over 200 froyo stores across the US. Yeah, for my own business. And so then they were purchased by a bigger company. And I was kind of at one of those crossroads of like, okay, now I could go and drum up more clients, or I could do what I really want to do, which at that point, podcasts were just starting. And I decided so many creative people, because my degree is in graphic design. And I started at the bottom as a designer, and so many creative people were like, "How did you do that? How did you work your way up, get your own international client right off the bat, all that stuff?" So I wrote Go Solo, my book. It's available on Amazon, and it became a #1 bestseller in entrepreneurship. And it was endorsed by Barbara Corcoran and John Acuff. And so it was really successful, and I was traveling to speak. And that's when I was like, well, if I'm traveling anyway, why don't I just take some gear and I'll just start doing a video talk show as I'm traveling? How hard could it be? And I always follow up with, it's very hard. I was dumb. But I'm glad, because it worked out for me.
Yeah, it's been unbelievable to watch all the things that you've done and the growth. But what I love, you have so many takeaways, even from just that little snippet where I'm going, oh my gosh, yes, like you made it up as you went. You didn't have a background doing what you ended up doing. You've done corporate America, you've gone out on your own. You're like, oh, I'll try this thing, and didn't know how hard it was going to be, which is awesome, because if you did, you wouldn't have done it probably, just like anything that we do. If I knew parenting was this hard, I don't know I would have had children.
Exactly,
so
for sure.
It's kind of a blessing. And it's funny how I think a lot of people that are getting into business or new to business think, oh my gosh, everyone else has it figured out. Everyone else has a perfect plan. Everyone else has degrees and certifications that validate their right to be there. And I'm like, no,
right.
Most of the people doing well are literally making up as they go. They're raising their hand. They're saying yes to an opportunity before they know how they're actually going to do the thing. And your story's full of that. Like, it's stage after stage of going, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. No, I've never done that, but yeah, I'll do that. And I love it so much. Now, one of the things I love about you, Kelsey, is I feel like you are so brave when it comes to doing new things. Like, every time I see something you've put on Instagram, it's something new. Like, you are the master of reinventing yourself and trying new things. And I think in business, because it already feels a little vulnerable, it already feels like I'm putting myself out there. Maybe someone that's been in business a while, they're thinking, I'm just going to play it safe. I'm going to do what I know, keep making the products I know, keep fulfilling the services I know, and just keep it safe and predictable and controllable. And you are the opposite of that in every way. And comedy in and of itself is so vulnerable. Like, you know what it's like to tell a joke and you go for it and it's crickets, and it's so painful.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
You've done music. You've moved to LA last year. Like, you're just out there so bold and trying new things. So let's just start with that. Like, how do you do that? I have so many follow-up questions to this, but like, how do you do all these new things and do them so well?
Well, I think that the interesting journey, like if listeners go back and search, Christy Wright and Kelsey Humphreys, and you go listen to our interview, the show was called something else. It was called The Pursuit with Kelsey Humphreys. And at that time, I was pretty much only doing entrepreneurs. And I was just in the space that I knew exactly like you're talking about. I knew what would work in the entrepreneurship podcast space, who to go after. Get Tony Robbins, get Gary Vee, get Dave Ramsey, get those people. That's who you want to have on an entrepreneurship talk show, So I kept doing those things. But if you watch the evolution, and I was saying to go watch on YouTube, you and I in our interview, like I was still straightening my hair and I was still wearing like anchor woman dresses and like, it's just not me anymore. I look back at that and like, I know, I love what I did and I love all those episodes. So it's not like I don't love and appreciate them anymore. But I think what happened was I was letting myself be more me. And if you just start for so many of us, we fight how we're hardwired for lots of different reasons. A lot of times because we have a parent or two parents or a social structure who are not like us. Maybe, and so as much as my parents are my biggest cheerleaders, neither of them popped out with jazz hands, right. Like I did. They just are not that way. And so, as much as they love and support, they didn't quite get it, And so then, and of course they're immigrants. I'm an immigrant kid and they're like, you going to college, you getting a job, you can sing in coffee shops. And which is what I did. And so I think what happened I like to tell people that, I left my dreams and goals of, I was going to be a Christian Beyonce plus Sarah Bareilles.
Love it. Great.
Which was the first problem. Yeah. But anyway, so that was like what that when I was young, I think when we're teenagers, we're kind of, that might be where we're like our truest, most not jaded self yet, and that was the goal. But then I went into school and then I married my high school sweetheart. We got married young. We had a mortgage right away because that's what you did in Oklahoma. And it was just like life, And so I tell people it kind of took me like a decade to get back to me, like who Kelsey really is. And so I think that it feels really brave on the outside looking in. And of course, it was terrifying. It was terrifying. The first comedy sketch I put out was Life of a Mompreneur in 3 minutes. And that Facebook video now has been shared a bunch of times. It has like over 250,000 views. It's definitely my biggest video on Facebook. But I was scared because everything I had done up to that point was either a quick pep talk, which was like a life lesson in a funny way, or an interview. And I think it was just like, I want to get back to how I am hardwired. I keep having all of these funny ideas. Why don't I just put them out? And so I think it's just the willingness to be like, I love this. Why not serve with it? I love doing music. I love doing comedy. Why not serve with it rather than just holding that piece back? Why not give that to my audience too? Will you lose some people? Yes, there are hardcore business-only people who were like, whatever Kelsey's doing, I'm out. That for sure happened. But I think that's what it really comes down to is it seems brave on the outside, but for me, it was just like, you know what? I keep wanting to do this. It keeps coming back up. It keeps, getting in my brain and my spirit and these ideas over and over again. So let's just try it. And if everybody hates it, then I won't put out another one.
I love this. And it's so interesting, even as you talk about this, because I feel that even in, Business Boutique and how my brand has evolved and even how I looked in my first photo shoot and the clothes they put me in that I was like, yeah, okay, is this what I'm supposed to wear? Only suit jackets that look, button-up shirts. I look like a journalist, like this is what you're supposed to look like. And I was like, only in the last 2 years have I started to get more brave, more back to myself. And it's through testing and experimenting. And I realized, oh, that is me. I didn't know that was me because I buried that part of myself without even realizing it, just trying to fit whatever, construct or expectation that people have of you. And I think that can be a really difficult process. And unfortunately, Kelsey, I think it's a process some people never go through. They wake up, many years later in life and they realize they don't know who they are, or those dreams they let die, or that part of themselves they just hid forever. So for you, was there a moment that was the catalyst for this, or was it a season where there was a pattern and a theme where you were like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to put the comedy sketch out there. I'm going to not straighten my hair. Like, what for you transitioned from just dreaming about it to doing something about it?
Well, starting the talk show was definitely sort of like I was about to launch my book and I was going to do the talk show, and I definitely had a turning point there, which was that I was a secret high functioning alcoholic. And so that was I didn't have any sort of like rock bottom moment, but I just felt the Lord impress upon me. I just felt him say, like, I'm not going to bless what you're doing if you don't get sober. And I talk about, it's not a huge part of my story, but I always share it if it comes up, because I think there are a lot of like housewives who love Jesus, love their work, love their kids, and are stuck in, and it could not, maybe it's not drinking, but it's like an eating disorder or an affair or secret depression or any of that secret shameful stuff. And I really just want to, let people know that you're not the only one. Not all these perfect housewives are, living their dream life. You are not the only one. And so I always share that. So that was a turning point, because I really felt like, you know what, this is going to fail if I don't get myself right, like get my soul right, get my inner workings in order. And then from there, what happened later was, I think it was listening to, podcasts and reading books and stuff that we do, right? And it was actually sort of a turning point of, for example, it seems kind of random, but stick with me. So you know how like Steve Jobs wore the same thing every day?
Yeah.
And he had like a wardrobe or a uniform or whatever. And then for a while, everyone was talking about capsule wardrobes, right? Of not thinking, women were talking about it too. Like, let's stop spending so much time in the morning thinking about what to wear. And what I realized as I was getting ready for an interview was how much time I spent thinking about my hair, which I was trying to burn into submission. And it just wants to do this, okay? This is what it wants. And I would, like you were on your book tour, that was in Dallas in the summer. And it was just like, I could feel my hair expanding. Yeah. It was like, you thought so, but we're not staying straight. And I was thinking about that while I was interviewing. And I realized, you know what? This is a disservice. And so it was like one tiny thing where I was like, I'm not going to think about that anymore and worry about my own ego and what, I feel like when I look polished. And instead, I'm going to do something where I don't have to think about my hair anymore, right? So that was like a small change. But what I realized is I felt more confident. I felt more funny. I felt more me. So I don't think there was a huge catalyst in putting out comedy. And actually, the end goal has always been Jimmy Fallon, a motivational Jimmy Fallon. That's the kind of show I want. I want to have a variety type show, but it has motivational guests. And we do fun games and I sing with musicians and stuff like that. That's the end goal. But really just over time, it was like, you know what? I want to try this. I want to try that. I want to try that. And just feeling more and more confident as I stepped more and more into my gifts.
I love that, because it's so interesting how even just the change can be so incremental, where it starts with like, I'm not going to straighten my hair. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm not going to wear these suits anymore. And it becomes this snowball where it gives you the confidence to make the next change and the next change. One of the things that I'm curious about, Kelsey, is have you tried anything new or learned anything about yourself, whether it's a talent or even a style choice, that maybe before you tried it, you were like, I wouldn't have even known that was me, but after trying it, like, oh, this is me. Let me give you an example for mine. This was last year at Business Boutique. I was on stage with Emily Lay, and I was interviewing her about everything with her story and her business. And she was telling me something about her branding and her colors and how they brought in some outside perspectives. And these outside creatives were like, hey, what if you tried this and this and this with your brand? And they actually brought a really fresh perspective that she hadn't been able to see because she'd been so in the weeds in her business, which can, happen to all of us. But it was through that outside perspective that she tried something new in her brand, and that brand has really stayed, true from what they brought in. But it was an outside perspective that brought it, that she realized, oh, this is me. Oh, this is us. So like, my example would be on book tour, actually, just before book tour, we brought in a stylist to help me like get all my outfits, because you're doing like 15 different things a day, so you got to have all these outfits. And she bought things, Kelsey, that I would have never picked off a rack. The shoes that I would have never picked up. There are these one shoes, I may have actually been wearing them in the video with you, where they are Kate Spade, they are tweed rainbow. Okay, visualize this. Tweed rainbow. So all the colors of the rainbow, they're tweed. And the heel is full gold glitter. So if you want to say like gaudy, crazy, you would walk by and go, who would ever want these? You put them on and they're magical.
I feel like I would
want
them.
They're magical.
Yes, I want them.
And so I put on these clothes and I tried these funky earrings, things I would have never tried before, and I realized, oh, this is me. I didn't know this was me, but it brought out this whole side of me. And now that's all I wear are funky earrings, funky shoes, ripped jeans. Like I've got this whole other style that has come to life because I was willing to try on some shoes that I would have never tried on before. So for you, as you've tested the waters on some of these things that are new, what has that been like? What has it been like to do something you weren't sure was you, but you're like, I'm going to go experiment and see if it works and see if it kind of, try on the outfit and see if the outfit feels like me, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I haven't had, for the most part, it's me just testing things. I haven't had any outside perspective other than a lot of people asking me to do more of like the teaching portion. So that is the part, like at the end of my episode, I do like a recap where instead of just me asking people questions, at the end I say, here's what I think are the key things we need to learn here. And that is something that I would never have said I was a teacher. And now I have people comment on my YouTube all the time, like, thank you so much for the recap. Thank you so much for the breakdown. And so that's one of those things, like, I just constantly am asking questions. I used to get in trouble growing up. People would be like, can you stop with the Spanish Inquisition? Like, let's just have coffee. Like, really, that happened growing up so often. My friends would be like, Kelsey, rein it in. And so I just knew that I would love to talk to people, but I didn't really think about the teaching part. And it's actually kind of been a journey. Now I'm going to offer, if people want to learn about how to get great guests for their show, if any of your listeners have a podcast that I actually have, you can go to getamazingguests.com and I'll actually teach that process. And it's just one of those things that I would have never said I was a teacher, but people kept asking, for more, like, and for example, going on a live stream, which is a great way to get real time talking to your people. I'm sure most of your listeners hopefully are doing live streams regularly because they're so valuable. And that would be another one where people are like, could you do a quick pep talk on this? Could you talk more on this? Could you do a training on this? So I think that's one of those unexpected things because I just want to entertain, right? I just want to be funny. I want to do my little music sketches, parody songs. But I have a heart for people. You don't go into this unless you really care. If you don't have a message and a mission, you're not going to last. So I just give them what they want. So now, I'm trying to think of other things that I could teach or train that still feel authentic to me.
I love that. And it's such a great business lesson too, because that's where the best product ideas, service ideas, offering ideas come from, are what the people are asking for. And if it's in your wheelhouse, like if you can make that happen, that's going to be the most successful thing because that's what they want. All right, let's talk really quickly about failure, because when you try new things, you're going to fail or fall short, however you want to shape it. It's going to be a lesson. It's not going to be fun, but everything is not going to work out. So has there been anything that you had this idea and you're like, oh, this is brilliant, I'm going to try it, and it just didn't? It just didn't go well or it didn't meet expectations? I have a very long list. So do you have anything that, for you kind of experienced that pain?
Well, I'm going to get real vulnerable and overshare, as I always do. But people look on the outside at my show and think, well, Kelsey's a baller. Well, Kelsey wasn't making any money. Okay. Like, I was just traveling around, and last month I had my best month ever. This year I'm going to probably quadruple what I made last year. And that's all great. But it's been years and years and years in the making of getting that momentum of myself as an entertainer and a speaker. And all that other time, I was doing amazing talk shows, but only a few of them have really gone viral or mini viral or whatever. Only a few of them have really popped. And the rest, people love them, but they're not huge. And so I was not big enough to have a sponsor. And I wasn't offering trainings at the time because I have an assistant now. But before, for the first couple years, I had no assistant. I edited everything myself. So it was a full-time endeavor, and it was super hard the first couple years because I was like, I am just a big fat money suck. What are we even doing? So on a large scale, I would just say we were pre-profit. But on a large scale, that felt like a failure for a while. But I believed in it, and so did my husband, which is important, and not everybody has that. But we had chosen to look at it as an investment. And now, in year almost 5, y'all, it's paying off, okay? So you have to stick with it. The other thing I would say is I like some of my music videos or comedy sketches. I, of course, think they're the most hilarious thing. And then like they have like 1,000 views, you know? And the other part, you guys, that is huge in what I do is rejection, which I know that's different than failure, but they feel kind of the same in how much you want to crawl in the fetal position and hide under your desk. And I get rejection every day, all day, because I was constantly asking, hey, will you be on my show? Hey, will you be on my show? You know, when I was a tiny nobody in Oklahoma, and now in LA, I'm auditioning for things, I'm applying for things. I'm always like just out there, just putting myself out there, which means I'm constantly getting rejected. And so what I like to tell people about that is to let the punishment fit the crime in terms of how much wallowing you allow yourself, okay? So at the beginning, when I got a bunch of no's, it really set me back, and I wasn't used to it. I wasn't used to failure. I wasn't used to rejection yet. And so I would really give myself, it would be like 2 days that I would just be like, this is never going to work. This is never going to happen, you know, just like totally devastated. And then over time, now if I get a rejection, if it was like somebody I really, really, really wanted to have on my show and they said no and we tried for a long time, then I will give myself like, okay, go for a walk. You know, we're talking like 30 minutes and then you got to bounce back. And I think that's a key muscle that you can
let's talk about that, because that was actually going to be my very next question, because I think so many people in business are paralyzed by the fear of rejection. So much so that they don't try new things. They don't put themselves out there. They don't make the ask. They don't try to make the sale. They don't go for it. And so they just stay safe, predictable, small, and they wonder why their big dreams aren't happening. But it's because they're not willing to go face that rejection, to face the pain, to face the person that doesn't like them or get them or think they're funny or what, fill in the blank with whatever the thing is. And I feel like for me, it's a similar experience to what you just described, where the more rejected I am, the more rejections I receive, the easier it gets, because you realize that it's not going to take you out. It's not going to define you. There are other people who love you, need you, that you need to fight for. And it almost allows it, not that you don't care, you still care, your heart is in it. You wanted that guest and you didn't get them, but it doesn't have to take you out. So let's talk about that. Like, how did you get to the point where you overcome the fear of rejection to do it initially, not just recover from rejection, but to get past it to even try the thing?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, part of it was probably just not knowing how like totally out of bounds I was, which is great. I mean, if you don't know and you just want to try it, ignorance usually can be a little bit of a helper at the beginning. So like me reaching out to Tony Robbins or someone, you know, I didn't realize how crazy that was. But I think the other part too is just I had enough years not being me and not doing what I wanted to do. And that pain is fresh enough that I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I think people have to get to the point where they realize that pain of not doing it and always wondering and being like, oh, will I ever? Can I ever? Could I ever? Is worse. That's worse than getting a no. And I know you might not believe me right now if you haven't done a lot of pitching, if you haven't done a lot of, you know, going out there and putting yourself out there, but trust me, it's worse. The rejection is something that you can bounce back from, and every time you learn. I like to tell people, we talk a lot about comfort zones, but here's what we don't talk about. Every time you push yourself outside, guess what? The comfort zone gets a little bigger. So every time you're pushing, you get a little bit more and more comfortable, and suddenly rejection is nothing. So that pain of that you're in right now, if you are not wanting to take any risks and you're playing it safe and you can feel that you're bored and you're stagnant and not growing, that is worse than the rejection. Just take it from me and Christy.
I love what you just said, because we did an entire podcast episode on getting outside your comfort zone. And I said exactly what you said. Like, when you push yourself outside your comfort zone gets bigger, which means you get bigger. You're growing when you push outside your comfort zone. If you're not trying new things, if you're not pushing outside your comfort zone, you're not growing. You're not going to expand your skills or opportunities or anything. So I love that. Okay. As we wrap up, Kelsey, I would love it if you would just give our listeners, our viewers, a little bit of advice for trying new things in their business. They're going to try to mix things up. They've got this stirring. Like, what advice would you give them from a teacher's perspective, from someone that's doing it and has done it? What's a good starting point to say, okay, how do I get started trying new things?
You know what? I think that the first thing is to get quiet and block everybody out, because that is it really comes down to what you were uniquely designed to do, that calling that's been nagging at you. And if it's scary, you've probably been shoving it down. And like for me, I am a wife and mom, and we just moved to LA a year ago. And I remember like even just putting my child in full-time care because I was trying to grow my business and launch the show was just weird to people. It was like, but you can work from home. Why would you put her out? And I'm like, because I'm trying to write and create videos, and I can't do that with her at home with me, right? So it was like this weird thing where I felt like the other moms, didn't get me and they were judging me. That's like one tiny example, but we can all come up with a million of where like we are just worried about other people's perspectives, what they're doing, what is the right thing to do according to everyone else. A lot of people would not have told me to start doing comedy videos and all of the stuff that I'm doing, but I would have never hit my stride. Whereas now I'm like, man, I'm so comfortable in what I'm doing. I love what I do versus just feeling like it's a chore. I feel like, oh, I've finally made it, in one aspect, which is how much I love it. And you're not going to get there until you get quiet and listen in. Okay, what have I been wanting to do? Let's get real with myself. And I encourage you to sit there and journal it out, write it out. One thing I talk about with people who are like, well, I'm not sure what it is I want to do, which is another reason people kind of stall. And I would say, if you sit and listed out the things that you have loved and wanted to do since you were a kid, or even in the various jobs you've had, list out what your favorite parts of that job were. List out, even if you're doing volunteer work, or even within motherhood or homeschooling, what are your favorite parts? And you're gonna see common threads. Maybe you always are teaching. No matter what, you're teaching in some aspect, right? Well, then you will probably crush it at building online courses if you're naturally a teacher, right? Or maybe you find in there that it was always something artistic. And what's been missing in your life is to really start creating art every day. But you have to do the work to figure out what that is. So I would encourage you to get quiet, listen in on your own. And then the other part too is to think, how can I pivot and add this in? Because like you said, Christy, this was a gradual change. So I think if someone's listening and they're like, I know I've been playing it safe. Well, you don't have to totally rebrand tomorrow. Like, calm down. Instead, what I did, was I added a comedy video, and that was like in October. I don't think I did another funny thing again until like January. So it wasn't like, hey guys, guess what? I'm a comedian. And all of a sudden I was putting out something funny every week. It was just that like I slowly started to add in more of what lit me up and got me excited that I knew my audience would also find funny or find encouraging. Everything I do, I want it to be motivational as well. So once I put those filters through it, I think you can figure out, okay, so you get quiet and then you maybe do the exercise if you need to on things that you really have always loved and always wanted to do. Then ask yourself, okay, how can I fit this in a small way to what I'm already doing?
I love it. I love that advice. And I love what you said a second ago, too, that I think was really powerful about you feel like you've hit a stride now because you are your most yourself, the most yourself. And I think people chase someone else's version of success, how the Google, defines success, how someone else is successful on Instagram. And it's like, you're going to be the happiest, the most fulfilled when you are the most you. And that might mean it's a smaller scale. It doesn't have the, the impact or the level of success you've had in your head, whether it's dollars or followers or whatever, but you're going to actually be happier because your hair is curly and you're doing that thing that you love to do. And I think we miss that. And so that's such a great lesson. That's what I love about Business Boutique, equipping women to make money doing what they love. I want you to do what you love. We can be successful at a lot of miserable things, but instead, let's spend our one life doing what we love that makes us light up. That's such a great note to end on. Now, Kelsey, I'm so excited you're going to be at our Business Boutique event. I'm going to give our listeners just a quick, fun backstory. So many people know that Annie F. Downs has been our MC for a bazillion years, and she's going to be on sabbatical this October. And so our event team came to me thinking I was going to be like, oh no, we have no plan. What will we ever do? And the moment they walked in, they were like, hey, Annie's on sabbatical. She really needs a break. And I was like, I totally get it. I was like, Kelsey Humphreys. I was like, done. I was like, we have to have Kelsey. We have to get Kelsey. Immediately you came to mind, and you are just going to rock this role. I know you've done it a lot before, but just tell our listeners and viewers maybe a couple things you're excited about to be our new MC at Business Boutique. We're so excited to have you.
Oh man, I love emceeing. I love teaching. I love giving a good keynote, but emceeing is really like me and the crowd. I like to say we are a team, guys. We are a team in this. And so my job as an MC is to get people really locked in, ready to receive everything that the speakers are going to bring, everything that they're going to learn. And so it's really this partnership where I give them energy. Like I will, guys, I will be a buffoon, okay? Up there if I have, like I will go all out, whatever I have to do to get people in a position where they're ready to receive. So they're energized, they've laughed, maybe they've said something to their neighbor, just something to get you sort of out of that, oh, I'm scared I'm at a conference, I know 2 people, what's gonna happen? Get you out of that. And so we have so much fun. I have so many things that I've done with crowds that have been super fun and inspiring, but none of the crowds so far have been as big as Business Boutique. It's like, maybe I think my biggest crowd is like 1,200. And I'm just so excited to see what we do in that giant auditorium with everyone. I think you guys are gonna just lose your minds. You're gonna lose your minds because what I do is to get us in that place where you are ready to go to the next level, you're ready to go all in, and then you do that all weekend long, and you leave a better you with better business ideas.
Oh my gosh, I love the MC role, and Annie was so good at this, and you are just a pro at this. And Kelsey, that room, 3,000, and not just 3,000 people, 3,000 all women. And when you get a room full of women, oh my gosh, like they laugh more, they cry more, they play more, they're sillier. It's just so much fun. It's this like circle of trust, sisterhood, and it's just a blast. Well, we are thrilled. I've had so many people tell me already on Instagram how excited they are to see you there, and I know that everyone in that room is just gonna love you as much as we all do. And I know you're crazy busy, but you are just such a light, Kelsey, and your energy is contagious. So thanks for taking some time to teach us and encourage us to try new things. Thanks for being here. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you wanna see more of Kelsey Humphreys, well, guess what? She will be our MC at our Business Boutique event in Nashville this October. Be sure to get your tickets by clicking the link below.